Welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour. Of course, powered by Solum Global with your host, the founder of Solum Global, Kirk St. John's, crypto's most interesting man. And of course, Antonia Moss, the crypto queen, and the crypto bros, myself, Lance Miliaccio, and George Balloutine. You know, this is your ultimate deep dive into everything crypto, blockchain, and decentralized finance. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just stepping into the world of digital assets, we bring you expert insights, top interviews, exciting new projects, breaking news, and game-changing innovations shaping the future of digital assets. You're never going to hear any hype on this show. No fluff, just real talk, real strategies, and real opportunities in the world of crypto. Because we always say this show, in crypto, we trust. So I'm excited today. We're joined by an expert in the blockchain AI world, Mr. Rick Egan. So this is going to be a great show. It's one of our first big interviews on here. We're doing this because our plan always, just like the National Crypto Association, our plan is always try to unify and educate the country so that you guys can participate in the potential for generational wealth. But let me start with George Balloutine. We've been hustling today. What's going on, man? How are you? Yeah, we don't want you hangry. We don't need you hangry.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Fridays are tough. Yeah, it's rise and grind right from the get-go. We usually roll out of bed around 5, but we usually go to bed around 1:30 the night before because we've got so much to do. So listen, Antonio Moss, what's going on, man? You guys
Hello.
had a fast hustle. You were down in Atlanta. You guys seem to be on planes more than you are on the ground.
I mean, I do love an airport, I must say. No, I get
Yeah,
very excited. I kind of have a look at everyone, like where they're going, and
yeah,
makes me feel alive. Yeah, I'm weird like that.
yeah,
I
you
thought
know,
I'd get into plane spotting.
yeah.
Take me to the airport,
That's
even
your
just to
first
drive
day at an
past. I'm
airport
a
date.
cheap date, yeah.
Hey, the nice point is you can go to the food lounge, pick out whatever you want. You don't get trapped into only having one kind of food when somebody takes you out.
It's
I,
very
you know, I
true.
used to fly 120 to 130,000 miles domestically years ago.
Wow.
And I always think about what airports I liked and preferred because maybe there was a food court that was
It's
better than
true.
others.
You kind of know, you have your little spots, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah, you
feel you
kind of
on
know
that.
once you hit those airports. Kirk St. John's, man, the busiest guy in
Yes.
crypto, I think. Maybe the busiest man in show business too. What's going on, man? How are you?
Well, no, I'm great. It's been an exciting couple of weeks. It seems like the faster we go, the faster we go.
Yeah.
And
We
everywhere
move.
everywhere we go, things are just continuing to line up for Solum, for the coin, for the project, the team. People we're meeting, opportunities coming our way every day. So it's been super.
But the trip, just to say, in direct answer to the question, we had great conversations with our expert who's here today. So
Yeah.
really, really fleshing out everything that AI in healthcare for, everything we'll go into. So I don't want to spill the beans, but it was fantastic
Yes.
from that perspective for sure.
Absolutely.
The combination of AI for the blockchain, a lot of people are always unsure as to how it's going to impact their life. The reason we brought Rick in today, because he's an expert, he's been overseeing the day-to-day operations on an extremely successful AI company. He spent his early career as a member of the technology startup teams in the critical 0 to 1 million revenue growth phase, if you guys are familiar with that, back in early tech. He worked closely with tons of early stage investors within the venture capital community. He's become president, chief executive officer, and director to lead the turnaround strategies of a NASDAQ hardware manufacturer, which became a software management platform firm. He's also been the managing partner of a business advisory firm specializing in early stage growth and business transformation. And his engagements included artificial intelligence solutions that manage hospital optimization, fraud detection, and identity protection technology in the financial sector. I think this is what's big about this for me is that people are struggling with getting their head wrapped around. Things are moving so rapidly. It's kind of like early tech. If you think about early 2000, when tech was just exploding, late 99, early 2000, people were having a hard time keeping up. Even myself and George, we spend tons of hours weekly. Rick, it's amazing that you're here. Maybe you can give additional cliff notes on your bio. I didn't go through the whole thing because I didn't want to sound like I was just reading a teleprompter. Anything else? Because you're in such an important vertical, you're in high demand. So if there's anything you want to add to that, please do.
No, thank you so much, Lance, and great being with everybody. I want to tell a super quick story about how I got here today, but I'll go back about 10 years or so. My introduction into the AI space 10, 15 years ago, we repurposed some NASA Hubble Space Telescope technology to use that to optimize the throughput inside of hospitals. So boom, out of nowhere, I get involved in AI, healthcare, and never really looked back. So getting a chance to work with the Solum team and bring all that experience into their technology roadmap is just awesome. When I think about your question, Lance, what's interesting to me is you commenting on you and George, the pace that this is coming. It's coming so fast. So the winner in this is going to be somebody that has that vision that can pull all these pieces together, because it's an integration play as much as it is raw technology development. And again, that's why we're excited to be folding in AI, machine learning, and other analytics inside of what Solum's vision is for blockchain and, of course, their stable coin. Couldn't be happier.
You know, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and George, I agree with you. You know, what's interesting about this team is that we really have a group that works. We don't look at the clock. So this is a 24/7, 365 event. George and I are up till late at night, up early in the morning. Things are moving so quickly, not only in our environment, which of course is the podcast, radio show environment, but the fact that the education needed and the companies that are coming to fulfill that mission is so important. So if you like the show today, remember, this is about educating people. This is about explaining to you how crypto is going to really change your life, how AI is going to impact it. You've heard about Grok, you've heard about ETHERUM, you know about Project Colossus, one of the biggest AI supercomputers in the world that Elon Musk is building out even now and adding infrastructure to. Of course, you know about Stargate operation, the US government's deployment into AI, and there's many other countries, including China and Russia, that have got their own systems. It's going to be important for you to understand the basics of this. And today, what I want to talk about is people ask us over and over again, I don't understand how cryptocurrencies or the blockchain is going to impact my life. How am I going to benefit? I mean, you know, I hear about Bitcoin, I hear about this. How does it come into a real world application? So when you think about the education that's needed for you to understand that, we're going to break it down. We're going to try to dumb it down, at least for me. You have to dumb it down if it's me trying to understand it, because we want to watch the terminology we use. So I want to start with, I'm calling this the, Solum AI, which is revolutionary healthcare, revolutionizing healthcare fraud detection and the optimization of healthcare. And what that can mean for you as a viewer of this show is that we're going to see some of these savings get passed through you. We're going to see a streamlined process for you getting to see the right providers, and it'll be a decomplication of the system behind the scenes. I want to start there, and if you like the show, thumbs up, comment, share, let everybody know about the show. We're going to be bringing on guests like Rick over and over and over again. So let's start there, Rick. Let's talk about the big picture and how, what you're doing is going to really impact global healthcare, the payer market. We know that's worth trillions of dollars, and it revolves around optimizing all these outcomes. You've got to balance risk, costs, and opportunities for all those insured individuals. But let's put this into some real world, talk for the audience.
Sure. Well, again, I'll start with a story. And this story popped into my head. It happened about maybe 8 years ago down at Georgia Tech. They were looking at some healthcare interoperability of data in their incubator space. And within an hour of meeting Kirk for the first time, this story popped into my head. And it's funny how your mind works when you get going and get thinking about things. I'm here in Georgia, and up in Dalton, Georgia, is really the flooring and carpet capital of really America, if not the world. And when I was at Georgia Tech that day, the CEO of S&P, New York Stock Exchange company, about 40,000 employees, he's down there looking at all this healthcare tech. So I peel him off to the side and I ask him, I said, what's your exact objective today? And he and I start a conversation. I'll never forget it. He says, well, I don't know how a lot of this stuff works, but I can tell you a few things that are really troubling to me. So again, large company, 40,000 employees. And he says, I just got numbers for this year of what our healthcare costs are going to be for the following year. So he just blurts it out. And he says, that's 12% higher the cost than what it was last year. And this is around the October, heading towards Thanksgiving timeframe. He said, so I've got to get in front of the board in the next few weeks and explain how we're going to sell 10, 12% more of our product just to keep pace with those rising healthcare costs. And it just hit me. We have to use technology in order to be able to solve that problem for him. And he goes on by saying, Lance, that's every year. So I've got a heck of a problem. And before I could even say anything to him, he says, Rick, before you comment, let me make this point. This is an earnings per share problem. I mean, he's just bearing his soul to me. I'm not egging him on. I'm not even interfacing with him really at this point. He's just giving me his opening salvo. So that stuff hits you like a ton of bricks. Here's a big company that's doing well, that's disclosing that I have an earnings per share problem on my balance sheet, and I've got to find a way to solve it. And I'm down here at Georgia Tech that day, says this gentleman, to try to find solutions to this. So ever since that moment, Lance, I've been just transfixed on AI, machine learning, big data, and now meeting Kirk and the team at Solum, blockchain, the stable coin, all of these have to fit together to improve outcomes, lower cost, and help folks like that. By the way, he's not just one company. Every single CEO in America has the same thing, regardless of the size of the company. Those costs are going up 8 to 12% a year, and the only hope for that is to be able to utilize technology to lower those costs. And hopefully we dive into that today. That's the big picture for me, what got me excited to get going on all of this.
You know, Kirk, the audience might not know you have a deep background in healthcare and payment systems. You know, that's really where you started. I think in your real serious business side of you. Maybe share that with the audience, because I want to make sure we get a little time with Antonia too. I know she's got a little bit of a time crunch today, but I know her background's in a lot of AI. So let's start with you, Kirk, and give them kind of how this became such a priority for you in combining this and bringing it into the blockchain world.
Well, so I mean, I got to go back far enough to say that there was, under the George W. Bush administration, something called the Electronic Health Act, right? So most people are real comfortable today. They go in, they see the doctor, or they go to the hospital, whatever. You're getting logged in on a computer. But if you are old enough to remember going to see a doctor, and behind the reception's desk, there was all the manila envelopes, and, you know, it was really a paper trail world. You know, big minds were sitting around saying, hey, how are we going to get all that paper onto a computer, onto the internet? And it literally took an act of Congress, which is, you know, kind of a cliche, but it did. It took an act of Congress. And guys like myself and a lot of other smart people got together and looked at what did it take to produce, you know, a HIPAA compliant software system, something that can run over the internet, that would allow you to manage all that information in what we call today the Web 2 format. But what I would say is, before the Web 2 format, we had to envision and build the Web 2 format. So you had to go from the idea of everything and anything a doctor could do to you, and every insurance policy and every payer that would pay for that, and somehow get that into a software package, right? So we built MedTech, and we were the first electronic health record system in the cloud here in the States. So, you know, as I tell people, I walked in the doctor's office, there was manila envelopes. When I left, it was all on a computer. So time's gone by, technology has advanced. Web 2 is frankly archaic. The process is archaic. When you lay it out next to what you can do in the blockchain, smart contracts, you bring AI into it. And, you know, at the end of the day, right now, if you go see your physician, he does something to you, he sends the bill off to the insurance company. You know, if everything's not perfect, someone's got to open that claim and look at it, find out what's wrong with it, fix it, get the doctor to sign off on the fix, and then resubmit it. And that takes mental, like, manpower, brain, you know, activity. But when you start combining the AI learning, it's like having, even in my call center, I had 58 billers, right, in Tacoma, Seattle area. On one side of the call center, we had people like Glenda Anderson, 35-year veteran. She could, if you told her a CPT code, she could tell you what the doctor did to her. So she knew a lot about it. She understood policy. She understood diagnostic codes, changes, inpatient, in pay, out of pay, all kinds of different things she knew. So she could process claims really quickly. What Rick and his team has brought to the table, and, you know, for our audience, to make it simple, they've taken Glenda's brain and put it into a machine. because she's got 35 years of machine learning, and whether it's United Healthcare or Aetna or Medicare or Medicaid, it doesn't matter who the payer is, right? She knows who they are. She knows some of the quirks and nuances of that payment process. And so a lot of the expense that we have in healthcare is the cost of getting the information that represents what the doctor did to you over to the payer, and that can again be federal, state, commercial, whatever, and making sure all that stuff is working together right. So yeah, history doing that. You know, as soon as I met Rick, we talk about, you know, when we first started dating, and now we're pretty much married. But you know, when I first met him and I heard what they were doing, I was super excited. And we met. I want to make it like this: like we met on a Wednesday, and I left West Palm on the following Monday to go to Atlanta and sit down with him, just like we did yesterday. So taking all that, you know, Web 2 learning and applying it to the next generation of technology is what the Solum solution in regard to AI and revenue cycle management is really all about.
And it's unique. I want to point out to the audience that there's no other blockchain company doing this. There's no other crypto company or digital asset company, call it whatever you will, decentralized finance company. Nobody's doing this. This is exclusive. And people often say, you know, does the blockchain need this company? People talk about Bitcoin, that Bitcoin needs the blockchain, but the blockchain doesn't necessarily need Bitcoin. That's not an attack on Bitcoin. It's talking about what the intent is. The big investment nowadays in cryptocurrency companies is a word called intent, and you're going to find out that they're looking at what does that company provide in real world solutions for a replacement system. Kind of like we've talked about Swift. We talked about XRP and the relationships and their replacement system for the banking system in a lot of ways. First, it'll run parallel, and then it's probably going to be replaced. Swift will be out, and I believe that the XRP solution will be in. Antonia, you spent a bunch of time in AI.
A sprinkle indeed, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just give everybody a brief background on that, and then maybe address, you know, what I see here is we know what the problem is in healthcare, right? We deal with the inefficiencies as a client or a consumer when we go in. We know there's claims fraud we hear about and the waste and errors. We know there's administrative problems that we all deal with, whether you're denied a claim or whether you can't get to see this doctor because he's not in the right network. And it always seems like it has to go through an approval process, which can take weeks sometimes, and sometimes arguments with your insurance providers. Maybe give us that AI background quickly on you, and then maybe address this, because I think that the financial impact grows larger and larger when you look at how massive the burden of this is on the system and how it rolls down to the actual consumer.
Of course, yeah. So my background in the AI space was actually, aside from a range of different companies I worked with, really fantastic founders and teams, etc. Shout out to them. But one specifically, which is relevant to this and really piques my interest, it was legal artificial intelligence. But to be honest, it was mainly based on just claims AI. And what the power of AI in this industry can do, it just absolutely kind of blows out old versions out the park, because traditional systems of analyzing claims data and predicting, therefore, fraud outcomes is based on historical data sets, kind of coded in already existing models, and also a lot of human error. So humans are fantastic, we're all humans, but ultimately a machine can do this better. And in an industry like with claims, you can train the model over time. So it's trained on historical data. The great thing about it is it learns continuously over time. So it might flag anomalies or understand root cause analysis. And if it gets it a little bit wrong, it can train that model over time. So the longer the system's in place, the more and more, let's say, educated it is, and the higher the quality of the predictions you can get from its research. So yeah, I did that in claims which were financial claims, but also it's the same type of system depending on what the claim might be. So it's really interesting to apply it to the healthcare industry, right? Because health is what, $4.7 trillion in the US, right? It's bigger than the whole crypto market itself. So if you actually, see that scale, see how much of that is fraud, waste, abuse, etc. What's the best way of understanding in a succinct way what's going wrong, where's it going wrong? And actually the step beyond that, which AI can do, is actually give true predictive analysis too. So I think, sorry, Lance, I went off on one there, but what was the second
actually,
part of the
that's
question?
I
was
want to
getting
break it down for the
inspired.
audience. I think what's important about this is, like, and I'm going to use George for a minute. I'm going to use him as the guinea pig. He just went through this. When we start looking at the inefficiencies, and you think about the leakage and the slippage and the fraud combined, and the inefficiencies, what we're talking about is taking those inefficiencies out of the market, which should come through to the consumer. In the correct economic system, the consumer would benefit from a time savings, from efficiency savings, and from cost savings. George, you just went through this. I mean, you had to get approved. I know it was a long process to even get your knee surgery approved. I mean, the amount of steps, they ran you through the hoops. And I remember your frustration. You couldn't get with this doctor. You couldn't have that doctor. All of a sudden, they didn't want you to go to this person for your pre-surgery, recovery stuff. Maybe just give the quick snapshot. This would help solve that in George's situation. Of course, there was no fraud involved in George's claim. He'd had this injury documented a long time ago. But frustrating. And you're a squeaky wheel. I mean, George does it great. He's a squeaky wheel. I didn't mean to step on you there, Antonia. He's a squeaky wheel. But when you talk about this, the FBI alone has said that we're talking about this is costing American taxpayers a minimum of $80 billion each year, these inefficiencies. Go ahead. I want your comment, Antonia. Then I want to flip to Rick, and I want to talk about how you guys have worked with Solum to solve this and what this AI solution is going to mean. Because I think right now, Robert, Kennedy has got Junior's got his hands full. He's already identified that Medicare and Medicaid have massive amounts of fraud. He's looking at the inefficiency of the market. He's saying that not only claims, but the fact that the system is so, controlled by the pharmaceutical lobbyists and what their proponents of their mission is versus what really is about the American people being a healthier, population. So go ahead, Antonio, comment there and pop in there for what you were going to say.
No, I'll keep it brief. It's basically just how does it help us, the people, right? It's like faster processing of claims if they're correct, and that's very helpful in usually an area where you don't want the hassle of, okay, I'm tracking this down, I'm waiting XYZ time. It's already an area of your life that is not exactly going to be optimal. So it's just time, and hopefully over time as well, decrease costs, etc. So it will be beneficial to us all.
Yeah.
Let me throw something in, Lance, before you switch over. So in the most practical terms, right? There's a guy I know here in town. He works at a company. He's got a great, we call it a Cadillac plan. So it's a great plan. We're in South Florida, right? So I don't know, how many people have been down here too much, but going to dermatologists all the time to get little pieces, froze off your back, your arms, your face. So this guy goes in, his policy, I'm making up numbers, but it's pretty accurate. $2,500 a year, they will allow him to spend on dermatology activity. Right. So January, he goes in, he gets a couple things done, has a little biopsy check to make sure everything's good. Now he's going in, mid Thanksgiving. And the physician says, hey, I've got, 3 or 4 things I could freeze off here for you if you want me to. Now, the guy in there is already spent $1,700 out of the $2,500 on dermatologist activity. This freezing off everything, right? So he's got, he's got $700 left on his dermatology bill, let's say. They go in and they do $1,500 worth of activity. And a few weeks later, he gets a bill from the doctor for the difference between the 7 and the 15, which is like, what is that? Like $800?
$800.
Yeah, $800, right? So in the Solum solution, AI learning inside an electronic health wallet, the physician would see right then and there that if I burn these 3 things off within the next 42 days, the copay is going to my patient. So he could have said, what we could do? We could set an appointment for you January 5th, and now you'll come in, you'll get those things frozen off, and it'll be paid under your next year's $2,500. So that's not necessarily in any way fraud that the doctor did anything wrong. The patient has, again, a Cadillac plan. But the way it worked was, your insurance company is only going to pay so much of so much. And once you're outside of that coverage, the bill falls back on you. Now, this guy can afford $700-800, for a visit to the doctor. But it did trigger the thought. And that, you're talking about how does it go back to the consumer, right? How does it help the individual?
Yeah, that's an immediate savings for that
It's
client.
right then and there. I mean, who wouldn't wait? It's
Instant.
not like, you have to get it burned off today. You could have waited in, a couple months. So that's just an example of how, and if you had Glinda, back to my Glinda example, if she would have been in the dermatologist's office with the patient and the doctor, and she had his policy up plus all his billing history, she could have said, hold on a minute there, Jim. If you do this right now, it's actually going to cost you $700. Are you sure you want to do that? Because Glinda knows that business.
Yeah, and I think that's what people have to recognize is the speed that these data sets can get looked at when it comes to quantum computing and AI technology. A regular person, I don't care who it is, even the most sophisticated Glinda could not do this because it's going to happen at high speed. Let's talk about this solution, Rick. You get together with Kirk. He's got that background. You're already in this swing. You guys are in full mode. Let's talk about the strategy and kind of what you guys decided was the perfect storm for what you were creating here and how you created that.
No, it's a great point, Lance. What happened was when Kirk and I got together, I wanted to understand exactly his vision for the blockchain, smart contracts. So I was a fan of all of that, but I wasn't steeped in that. I'm over here in the AI machine learning space, and it's great unto itself. But the idea there is Kirk lays out, here's how the smart contracts will work. Here's how we'll get the data. Here's how we'll lock this and that down. So then it becomes, how do you add AI into that mix? And what's interesting is it's going to be a great blend, because what we'll do is everything to scale. No offense, as Kirk said, to Glenda. She's doing a great job, but this is beyond human problem solving. There's too many claims, there's too much data. It's for a machine to do. So every company out there, whether you're big or small, benefits include your health benefits. So if you're able to save money on claims, fraud, waste, abuse, and errors, that can go back into salaries. That impacts you as an individual. It helps your health plan. You're getting more for less. There's just a million things that help that scenario. On the question of how we're going to combine it is, what was interesting is in listening to Kirk go through the smart contracts, what I came away with is, boy, this is going to be exciting for a couple of reasons. Maybe at the top of the list is AI is capable of looking at all this data right now and flagging these things and standing watch over all of it. A better way to do it is with blockchain and with the smart contracts, because then what you have is you don't have several versions of the truth. All the policies, all the approvals, everything is there on the chain. And now AI can kind of move along and be a good support mechanism for looking at new anomalies and new things. And as Antonia said, making predictions. So what you have is the best of both of those worlds. You'll have everything on the chain. That will be the singular truth. And then what AI will do is well, let me say this to all our fellow human beings. As long as there's money and people around, people will still try to game that system. And as Antonia pointed out, there will be ways that we look at this from an AI perspective, even with the blockchain there. Maybe it's only 1%, maybe it's a little bit less, but it still adds up to a lot of money. So we look at new anomalies and new things that pop up. But more importantly, what will happen, Lance, is that the AI will move on as a component under the Solon overall roadmap and start looking into the future. When is a future claim going to be submitted from a certain employee? If you knew that a year in advance, which we can do, then you could start mitigating against that. Maybe it's a future hospitalization. All that's turnkeyed under the envisioned Solon rollout. That's
with
exciting.
Every piece, and I think it's incredible, with every piece of information, predictive analysis can become such an integral part of every one of these corporations and everybody in the healthcare industry. You could predict, and in George's case, they wouldn't need to struggle to find the notes because they already would have been on the chain. Time is the most valuable commodity. You guys know that. And this is a time saving for the consumer, not only a potential money saving in the long haul. We're going to take a short break on the Crypto Power Hour. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to talk about the application to Medicare and Medicaid. And of course, we want to talk about the savings for factoring on the blockchain and what Solon is bringing to the table. Stay tuned. Crypto Power Hour is going to be right back.
As an American who keeps up with the real news, you know by now the severity of the economic issues that are plaguing our great nation. My name is Jonathan Rose, and I'm the CEO of Genesis Gold Group. the only major faith-driven company in the industry. 2024 is a year full of uncertainties, with trillions of dollars in national debt, inflation impacting your savings, and a pivotal election year. Your peace of mind is more valuable than ever. Now is the time to use physical gold and silver to preserve your hard-earned retirement savings with a gold IRA. Call Genesis Gold Group today. Our team has decades of experience helping folks just like you take their first step on the path to true financial freedom with a gold and silver IRA.
Call Genesis Gold Group today at 1-800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of our experts to find out if we can be a fit for you. Call now at 1-800-200-4653 or visit genesisgoldgroup.com.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars, your ultimate hedge against political instability and economic turmoil. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar, crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. This tangible, divisible asset can come in handy even in the toughest of times. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. When facing inflation, currency devaluation, and financial meltdown, Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't wait for disaster to strike. Secure your future today with the exclusive Silver Prepper Bar, the only silver bar on the market divisible into 3 different size pieces for maximum utility, all while fitting in your wallet. The smart choice for savvy investors and preppers alike. With Silver Prepper Bars, you're ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation. As gold and silver prices continue to surge and top economists predict upcoming shortages, now is the time to secure your precious metals in the form of Prepper Bars. Go to PrepperBar.com now and place your order before supply runs out and prices go up. All payment methods accepted. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at PrepperBar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Order now.
All right, welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour, powered by Solon Global, with your hosts Kurt St. Johns and Tony Amas, the Crypto Bros, Lance Migliaccio, George Balloutine, and our special guest, AI Guru. That's right, I'm going to call him AI Guru, Rick Egan.
From my perspective, George, yeah, it's a great point. This to me is all about scale. If you start with that flooring company I told you about at the beginning, those guys had 40,000 employees. They spend around $300 million a year. And roughly 8-10% of that is claims, fraud, waste, abuse, and errors. That's a big number. $20-30 million a year that can go to employee benefits, salaries, et cetera. The only thing that happens as you move up into Medicare, Medicaid, I'll even throw the VA into that, is scale. It's just millions of claims, and it goes from millions of dollars into the B's and then into the T's, trillions. So same sort of thing. A machine should be doing this. We should be looking at every single claim that goes through, flagging the anomalies, holding up some payments, just drilling down. We're not saying we're not going to make the proper payments, but just have a governor on that, check that, and then let's just make sure everything is fine. I'm a huge fan of what's going on with Elon Musk and Doge and all the savings and transparency, and that's all that we'd be doing here. Let's get fairness into it. In this case, we'd be saving the federal government, hence the U.S. taxpayer, billions, if not trillions of dollars. Let's just run it through and let the technology do its job. And those would be tremendous savings. That could be done right now. The only thing that we need is the data from the claims. Very simple. And those are there because they're getting paid.
Is for Robert Kennedy Jr. to come by the office with Elon and we could work this whole thing out.
Say one thing and then I'll toss to all my friends here. In that example of that flooring company, I keep saying this. You know who the payer is in that example? It's the company. So the company is left with an ecosystem of brokers and third-party administrators. Everyone's trying to do a good job, but that person's writing those checks and going, this is crazy. Why isn't anybody stepping in and helping me solve these issues? Because they're all making money and they're all doing great. That's not a finger point. That's just a reality. I've talked to dozens of CEOs like that gentleman, and they all say the same thing. I'm the one writing the checks. I employ brokers and folks that help me administer my plan, but I'm unhappy with the rising costs. So now take that same example and just go over to the US government. Who's the payer of that? It's the US taxpayer is funding all of that. So what we should be doing is saying, okay, the government's there. We could use technology. Let's lower that cost with efficiencies, and then everybody wins. It's a simple problem. The will just has to be there. And I believe this administration and the folks at DOGE have that same will.
You know, and it's obvious that they do. We see the attacks because the more they expose, the more I would call this deep state organization continues to go after them. I saw some horrendous stuff this morning where they're repeating themselves in posts and video, more of the same that got disclosed about a week ago. You know, Antonio, you've been in AI for a while. You know, beyond fraud detection, what do you think is going to be the immediate benefit in healthcare for, you know, for people that decide to get on board early with the system, whether it's the federal government or other groups?
Yeah, well, I think the benefits of blockchain for healthcare generally, obviously, they go far beyond just fraud detection. But it is that issue of offboarding and onboarding, right? Because if there's these older systems, antiquated systems, you need to use that data to then train models and then benefit from the blockchain. But given that, which I'm sure this government, if any's going to do it, it will be them. But beyond just fraud detection, you know, the blockchain can be used to analyze patient data. The blockchain's immutable, so different individuals, their patient data is protected. It will enable seamless communication of where all of their patient data is stored. So it's just all around going to improve, you know.
I mean, it's a great thing to talk about the immutable ledger. So I'll take my dad as an example, right? My pops is, you know, 84. He's got the 7-day-a-week medication thing with morning, noon, and night on it. And he was at his GP, sent him to a specialist. That specialist, I can't remember, you know, the drug, but gave him a prescription. So he goes down to Walmart near his house to fulfill that subscription. But because these two specialists working on my dad and his GP were not all in concert as far as his prescription layout, they didn't realize that drug number 1 was actually countermanding drug number 2. And it caused neither one of them to work as well. And it took about 6 or 8 weeks for the symptoms to start to come out that would cause my dad to call the regular GP back. So if you had, you know, this more intelligent way of looking at the holistic solution that's going on, well, as we do have this more intelligent method of looking at what's going on with the patient, then you can start to compare notes like that. You get to CVS pharmacy, you get to Walmart or whatever, and that's when the pharmacist can say, well, why would you take, you know, milk at the same time you're drinking vodka? They just don't mix well, right?
Well,
and
even
that's
wouldn't
the
it,
type of
Kirk,
stuff.
I want to stop you there because wouldn't it mean the minute the doctor entered a prescription that was in conflict with another prescription drug, the AI system would look at that data set immediately and it would put up a warning. So you'd also have the potential here to probably reduce the overall load on malpractice cases because let's face it, you're opening the door up as a healthcare provider when you provide a drug that's in conflict with the drug that was previously provided. It appears immediately as if you didn't even look at the notes. But here would be a thing where I would imagine the system could immediately identify that. And there's another thing that hits me that I think that a lot of people don't know about. For people out there, a lot of doctors and institutions have to factor their health care because of the delay in the payment systems. You've got 30, 60, 90 days as a healthcare provider to get paid by the insurance companies, to get paid by Medicare or Medicaid. So these providers are resorting to factoring, which for the audience, I just want to make it clear, that's selling their accounts receivables at a discounted rate to third-party companies. Now, that costs the doctors and healthcare providers anywhere I understand from 3 to upwards of 12%. I talked to some chiropractors the other day, and they told me they were paying over 12% to factor. So they do this to maintain cash flow because of these delayed insurance reimbursements and patient payments for copays. How does this impact the factoring? Because it would seem to me with using AI, you should be able to lower the fees on factoring, and you should be able to expedite payment solutions. Now, Kirk, this is your area of expertise, so I want to throw to you because this is, I know you probably already have the answer to this question. I probably didn't even need to bring this up, but let's do it for the audience.
Well, okay, so let's go back to our friend Jim, who's at the dermatologist, right? So again, he's there on November 15th, and he goes $700 over his allotted amount. So November 15th, he goes in, he gets some things frozen off. The dermy, shuts the chart note out, and within a day or two, it gets pushed out through the electronic health record system Web 2 version, and it's going off towards the insurance company. So it gets over there to the insurance company. They see it. They say, hey, this is a $2,500 bill, but we're only going to pay, $1,500 of it. And as a result, the physician has some of the money come back to him, but he also gets a denial for the rest of it. So now by the time that happens, November 15th is December 15th. And of course, everyone's getting ready to break for Christmas, but he's got to recalibrate that. And now it's got to be sent back out to Jim, the consumer, to get the money out of him. All right. And so this transitional payment process is taking a lot of time. And the reason that has to go down like that is because right at the point of service, the dermatologist didn't understand from Jim or from his payer that Jim has to pay for it. Now, again, Jim's an executive. He's got money. He could have swiped a card on the reception desk on the way out, right? But without that understanding of how it's going to be paid for right then and there, which Web 2 electronic health record systems, they just don't have it. They don't have the ability to adjudicate who's going to pay for what in the midst of the way the system is working. So it's got to be sent out. It's got to get to an insurance company. My favorite Glenda's got to look at it. We've got to go through this whole rigmarole. What we're envisioning here in the SOLOM solution is that by tokenizing all these insurance policies, we can then on the other side of the smart contract mirror perfectly who's getting what done to them, which in the world today is already digitized. They call it tokenized if you want through ICD-10 and CPT codes and all this stuff. So we know mathematically what the physician is doing to the patient. The question is, on the other half of the contract, is it going to be paid for? And even if it isn't going to be paid for, so we use an example of maybe a immigrant comes across the border, they get hit by a car in San Diego, there's no coverage, right? They don't have any money and they don't have an insurance policy. The hospital would at least know that right at the point of care. And by bringing those two pieces of information together smartly through an AI sort of filter and then closing the transaction through a smart contract, you're accelerating the knowledge of whether that payment process is good. So from an insurance side, they call it a bad claim, right? But the insurance companies are going to say, because they'll know that that is something we're supposed to pay for. And therefore, the process of getting the cash to the physician can come at a hyper accelerated rate. Our goal is to have them paid at the point of service.
I think if I can just build
Jump right
from
in.
that.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I was explaining how all of these incredible new technologies can be applied to different areas within healthcare. And luckily, we're seeing a lot of R&D and applications in that area. What I've never seen before, quite seriously, is this smart contract solution for the payments area, which actually ensures that we all benefit, right? So I think that this seamless solution, whilst companies can benefit from all the data, the analytics, the predictive models, we the people, and also the doctors, the insurers, etc., as well, benefit from that piece. So I think that Solom's solution, identifying the problem, but actually bringing that solution is really what is the ticker for me.
Yeah. So let me see if I get this right. So I'm going to throw this to Rick. It seems like, because we know factoring is a problem. It causes high fees, reduced revenue for all the care providers. You got loss of control over your billing processes. We've seen, and I've dealt with it even, where you think the insurance company is going to cover a claim, then you get the deductible and you're like, wait a minute, I don't think I owe this. The insurance company told me I didn't have a deductible. It was going to be covered. Then you go into the aggressive collection tactics that are employed by these factoring companies because they want to get paid paid. They don't care. They want you to make the payment, and then they want you to argue it out with the insurance company. There's a lot of financial issues when people can't pay their bill. This might impact, credit worthiness, because of course we know that when you factor, it shows up on your credit bureau as a healthcare provider or a doctor. Of course, the more you factor your receivables, the less creditworthy you become. They'll never tell you that up front. So doctors that are factoring their receivables, it impacts their business. So you're creating something that also is going to immediately change cash flow, Rick, that these people could potentially, Antonia, George walk in, they go in there, this solution immediately analyzes all the data sets, says the claim's covered, there is no deductible. That person knows right there. And the fact is, because there wasn't any fraud involved, the doctor can hope to get paid within maybe even hours or minutes within the claim being submitted. Am I getting this right, Rick?
You're getting it dead right. And let me say something super bold and why we're just so all in on everything that Solum is doing. When you look at the size of this problem and you go through who wins, you just did it really well, Lance. The doctor wins in that case. The patient wins. The employer wins. I mean, that checklist is significant. So what we're going to do is we're going to run everybody over that doesn't get on board with that. We're not going in there to ask permission of brokers and TPAs and all of that. Now, if those guys want to play with this next set of technologies, then they're going to be winners too. But I want to get to the folks, so does Kirk and the whole team, who's writing the check, who's getting the services, who wins, how does this all become fair? Right now, we all agree, money's flying everywhere. There's a lack of transparency. The folks paying the bills, in many cases in the US, it's the companies themselves providing that as benefits. They're all frustrated. So we're going to bring this technology solution right to the payers. We're going to go down that ecosystem, win, 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 win. Everybody's happy. And honestly, whoever's not happy, I'm not going to lose one wink of sleep about it because they've been part of the problem. So that's what disruption is. And that's what's going to happen.
You're cutting out so many of the potential bad actors on this. Rick, I'm going to throw you to the wolves here for a second. I'm just going to throw you in. I'm going to throw in.
Right.
No, I'm going to do it
neutral
because I think it's important. Let me ask you, because in my head, right, I'm thinking business-wise. I've always been an entrepreneur. I always owned my own business. Now I'm listening and I'm thinking, okay, well, how much is this going to add to my bottom line? You just talked about a real-world problem where a guy's trying to cover a 12% increase in his healthcare costs. He's trying to figure out how he's going to explain to the board of directors, if he's a publicly traded company, how he's going to bring in 12% more revenue to cover a cost, and that 12% additional revenue is not going to be add any profitability. But what I'm hearing you guys say on this, and this is not an infomercial, I really believe this is an important solution, and it applies to everybody out in the audience. You guys are listening to the show. Hopefully you're getting educated and you're saying, wow, this makes a lot of sense. Maybe my costs would go down in healthcare. How much could you potentially add to a company's EBITDA and their bottom line, Rick? What are we talking about? What kind of numbers? I know you guys, knowing how you crunch numbers, you probably already know this. Give me a range of actual numbers coming to the bottom line for a healthcare company if they put this solution in place.
Well, look at it this way. In that example of that flooring company, 40,000 employees, let's say it's $300 million a year that they're spending on their healthcare costs. You're talking between all of the things that you can do on the blockchain, all the fraud, waste, abuse, errors, and then getting into predictive where you're actually mitigating future events. That number should be somewhere in that 20 to 30% savings on that. That's on the low end. It can get more efficient than that. So if all of a sudden you're going, I just dropped out of a $300 million spend, I just dropped $100 million back onto my bottom line. Just pure. That's real.
That's a massive number. It's not easy for a company to find that kind of slippage or spillage or shrinkage from their current numbers, that they can just add this efficiency to their bottom line immediately just by implementing the system. What do you think you could do for Medicare and Medicaid fraud? I know RFK Jr. needs all the help he can get. I'd love to see him look at this product. If you were looking him right in the eye right now and you said, listen, here's what I can do for you. Here's how I can solve some of your issues immediately. If you and Elon look at this, here's how I do it. Rick?
He froze up a little bit, but before he comes back on with the bandwidth, you got to throw Dr. Oz in there too, because he's going to be running CMS, right? So if we're going to have dinner, we want Robert, we want Elon, and we want Dr. Oz all together. So that's going to be exciting. I think Rick froze up there for a little bit.
All right.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw the question to you. I'm going to put you in the fire,
Sure.
Kirk. So what do you think the solution is? What can you bring to the bottom line for, and what can, because RFK's got his hands full. It's enough that he's got to deal with vaccine issues. We already have heard lots of stories. We saw him talking to Hannity the other day when they were at Steak and Shake eating some tallow fries, right? They were munching on the new tallow fries at Steak and Shake. I heard they're amazing. He wants to do that everywhere, but he's already got his hands full. How does Kirk St. John's walk in with Solom Global's AI healthcare solution, and what do you hand him on a silver platter and say, here you go, man, I want to help the country, and here's what we can do?
Well, I mean, the first thing that we're going to do is just to make a little quick difference there between Health and Human Services and CMS, right? So Health and Human Services is Robert, and he wants to keep the country safe. Dr. Oz is the one writing the checks from the big federal insurance company, right? So CMS is the team that's paying all the money. So when you look at that, it's the largest payer in the world, right? And if they are on par, and I think they're actually a little below par with other payers. So we had a client in Georgia, $858 million in claims one year, found $50 million in leakage, which was everything from fraud to stuff that shouldn't have been done. And, we can do the math there, but, that's roughly like 8%. So if you took the total amount of money that Medicare is paying and you just modestly save them 8 to 10% a year, it's an enormous amount of cash, and that goes right back into the government coffers as far as it not leaving. So that's the same thing as profit. So it's huge. It's massive.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I've got to hit the road, but you're in the great hands of what do you call him, the AI guru, Rick? Oh, no, he's gone. Okay, you've just got Kirk then, who's also a guru.
Yeah, his internet dropped, but not a big deal. But listen, Antonio, travel safe.
Thank you.
Yep. And we'll
Gotta
talk
hit
to
the
you on the flip
airport.
side. Well, Kirk, I think it's always important when we look at these solutions. The average American wants to know what's good for me. George just dealt with it. We want to say to the audience, this is always important. We want to know how we take blockchain and AI technology. How do I benefit personally? It's not just about investing. It's about quality of life, I think. And I think what you guys done is really met that. George, I mean, I think if you'd had this solution when you walked in, you'd have been a lot happier, because I heard a lot of moaning and groaning when you were going through this whole knee thing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whatever makes the process easier and less headaches and less things to worry about, especially when you get in surgery or you have a surgery coming up, it's overall, it's easier on you. Anything that's less stressful, less headache. You're gonna be in a better mood for surgery. Your overall health will be improved. And let's face it, even for the doctors or the physical therapy place, it's less stress for them.
Yeah,
I mean,
less stress on George. It means less stress on Lance and John Kirk.
But look how.
And
But
Kirk
you know
St.
what?
John's.
Hold on. But look at how much money there could be. They could save by like cutting all this, the red tape and stuff. But Kirk,
oh my God, yeah.
Kirk, I want to say something though, because when
Go ahead.
Lance, we were talking about how the time and all these hours we're putting in, and since I met Kirk, he's always adhered to a very strict schedule, and I can tell you for over the past month, we've gotten him to go past that schedule, and he's been up late, working late too. So he's been putting that time and effort in. I just want to point that out because give him props.
We're trying to push his bedtime hours back because he's got a different schedule. I got to give it to him. Though he gets up super early.
Right? When you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night is late. Plus, I like to read when I go to bed. I got important things to do on my bed. So, but let me say something. I want to say something. That's it's a little bit funny, but let's just put it out there, okay? Because I'm a tech guy. I'm an architect. People say, "Oh, Kirk's got a vision for future," right? So, and we take Robert Kennedy Jr. and he's at the Steak and Shake. The thing that is so exciting to me, which is also terrifying to me, is technology, and be careful, technocracy. Okay, because I'm not a despot, but if I was able to get everyone in America to use the Solom wallet to buy everything that they buy, so that I knew what was in your refrigerator and I knew what was in your garbage can, then I could take that information and I could look at the fact that you're buying this kind of a potato chip and you're buying this kind of a steak, and that steak comes from this farm and a ranch, and those ranchers use this kind of a vaccine or this kind of a hormone on their cows. And I could take all of that information, swab you, and do a full DNA analysis on you personally. So you're the center point. I know what's going inside of you. I know what's coming outside of you. The predictive healthcare picture that I could paint for you individually is absolutely mind-boggling. Right? It's mind-boggling. And we're not there yet today. We're just now trying to get manila envelopes onto a computer, and now we're trying to get all that information onto the blockchain. But once it's up and running and all of those tidbits are put together, the effect it's going to have on healthcare is astronomical. Now, my fear side is that I'm going to go to Starbucks and I'm going to say, yeah, I'd like to get that latte, but can I also get a glazed donut? And the girl at the cash register comes back and says, well, you can have the latte, but the glazed donut you can't have because that's too much sugar for you. And the transaction doesn't go through.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, but I think quality of life could be dramatically improved for everybody,
it would
right?
be.
The potential for your quality of life and longevity to get improved. We've seen the anti-aging clinics popping up, but at the end of the day, some of that predictive, truth telling, and I have to say this, if the federal government could have done a great job without having a company like Solon Global or an AI company helping them, they would have already done it.
Oh, they're not
the problem is they don't have it. They've got antiquated systems, so they have to go to independent contractors, or they have to do contracts with companies like Solon or other companies. Let's face it, they wouldn't be working on, Stargate operation, right? Stargate project, or they wouldn't be working on Project Colossus if they thought they already had it figured out. That stuff is here to stay. Quantum computing is here to stay. We have to figure out a way for us to get benefited. It isn't about the government. It's about the individual user, the person that's going out and going to Starbucks or going to the healthcare provider or going to buy a new automobile or the rest of it. We want to know how it's going to make our lives better, because it's not enough for these guys to be profitable. We want to know, can you improve my life? How are you going to help me? So I think that's what you guys have done. And I think the blockchain needs you guys. And I'll be honest with you, on this show, if I didn't believe that, I would tell you that right on air. I would put you right on the spot and say, I don't think you got it right.
I want to say
George.
something real quick, because we're talking about this, and for listeners that are new to all this, when we keep saying blockchain network, I want to break it down real quick, simplify it. So the blockchain network, the block is a list of transactions recorded into a ledger over a given period, right? The chain is a hash that links one block to another, chaining them together. It's the magic that glues blockchains together and allows mathematical trust. Now, your network, it's composed of full nodes. Nodes are computer systems, people are running them, that are running an algorithm that is securing the network. So now each node contains a complete record of all transactions that were ever recorded in the blockchain. And that's how it's like we secure it.
Well, I have to tell you that
medical notes, that's a key part of it. Go ahead, George.
I mean, well, no, I'm just going to take off what George said. I mean, that's where unpacking some of this. I know the first few shows here, we're getting to know the audience and them us, but, that's the type of thing we really have to break down and put it in layman's terms for people that want to learn and want to, get a little closer to what it means in terminology and practical application. So great example, George, to put that out there.
Yeah, and that information is going to be so relevant because, again, I'm not, we want it secure because we want we want to make sure that your HIPAA information is secure. But at the same time, having all those medical notes, having the conflicts and prescriptions, having your payment already guaranteed so you don't get surprised by some nasty copay that you thought was covered and it wasn't. All of us have dealt with that. We don't want to deal with that. We want to know that we're covered. We want to have it immediate. We want an immediate solution. I mean, I'm terrible. A lot of times I don't even want to deal with the medical industry. Right. I don't call about stuff. I don't follow up. My wife's really good about it. I'm not. Hopefully this will simplify it so that the people like me can walk in and get the immediate care I want without a bunch of questions behind it. Kirk, there's a lot on the table here. I think the next moves have to be getting this exposed to the right people inside our own government and in all the healthcare industries. If you guys have got additional questions about this, you can always go to solum.global. You can email people over there. There's customer support. You can also get a hold of C. Kirk on his social media. So C. Kirk 2023. George G. Balloutine on X. The Big Mig Show on X, Lance Migliaccio on X, and of course the Crypto Power Hour on X. If you're not already a subscriber over there or a follower, please do. If you haven't hit the subscribe or the comment or share button on this show, I need you to do it. Let's get the word out there. We're going to be the top crypto show on the internet. Crypto Power Hour, powered by Solum Global. You got to get over there and also follow Solum Global on X. Important. This is how we're going to integrate. This is how we're going to communicate. You're going to tell us what interviews you want to see, what topics you want it to cover. We're going to keep bringing it every single episode here on the Crypto Power Hour. Kirk St. John, you want to give us your last words on the way out of the gate, and we'll give George his last piece.
No, it's just been great. It's going to get better, and I'm excited to be part of it.
George Balloutine.
I'm excited to be part of it too with everybody. Listen, we have a team. We have the know-how. We have the wits. We have the systems. We just got to put it out there. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Kennedy Jr., if you're watching, let's go. We're here for you. We're ready.
Watching. I hope he's watching.
Me too.
Hi,
All right.
Robert.
That's it.
God bless. Have a blessed weekend, y'all. We'll catch you next week.